Before its name vanished into the vast empire of American Airlines, U.S. Airways spent decades doing one thing exceptionally well: surviving. From flying airmail over the hills of Pennsylvania to becoming a national powerhouse built on bold mergers and near-death recoveries, its story isn't one of luxury, it's one of resilience. If you love stories of ambition, chaos, and comeback in aviation, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. It began in 1939 when brothers Richard and Alexis DuPont launched All-American Aviation, a small airmail service connecting remote Pennsylvania towns. These weren't glamorous routes. They were lifelines for communities cut off from the rest of the country. By 1949, the company expanded to passenger travel and rebranded as All-American Airways. Just 2 years later, it became Allegheny Airlines, a new name for a growing regional player. Allegheny wasn't chasing fame, it was connecting forgotten towns with the rest of the nation. That blue-collar focus, practical, consistent, determined, would shape everything that came next. Through the 1960s and 70s, Allegheny grew by swallowing up smaller regional carriers such as Lake Central Airlines and Mohawk Airlines. Each acquisition added new routes, more aircraft, and a stronger presence across the Northeast and Midwest. By the mid-70s, Allegheny was no longer a small-town airline. It had become a regional powerhouse, running short-haul routes with Convair 580s and DC-9s. But as airline deregulation loomed, it faced a critical question: stay small and safe, or go national and compete with giants. In 1979, Allegheny chose reinvention. It dropped its regional image and emerged as US Air, a bold, modern name for a deregulated sky. The timing couldn't have been better. Deregulation opened doors, and US Air burst through them, acquiring Pacific Southwest Airlines, PSA, in 1986, and Piedmont Airlines in 1987. Those two deals gave the airline everything it lacked: a West Coast presence and powerful East Coast hubs in Charlotte and Baltimore. In less than a decade, US Air transformed from a small regional into a coast-to-coast carrier. But the growth came fast, maybe too fast. The airline struggled with integration, delays, and a patchwork identity. It was big, but by the mid-90s, US Air was massive and messy. Its fleet was a mix of aging Boeings and McDonnell Douglas jets. Its service was inconsistent, its brand outdated. The airline tried a reset in 1997, rebranding as US Airways, sleek, modern, and global in ambition. The new name came with Airbus A319s, A320s, and A312s, plus a push into transatlantic routes. For a short time, it worked. The airline seemed ready to step into the world stage. But beneath the fresh coat of paint, old problems lingered: high costs, tough labor contracts, and increasing competition. Then came the day that changed aviation forever. When the September 11th attack shook the airline industry, US Airways was already on shaky ground. Passenger demand collapsed overnight, and within a year, the carrier filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. It clawed its way out by 2003, only to fall again in 2004. A second bankruptcy in 3 years left it on the edge of liquidation. Rising fuel prices and relentless pressure from low-cost rivals made survival seem impossible. And then, from the Arizona desert, came an unlikely savior. America West Airlines, a smaller, more efficient carrier led by Doug Parker, stepped forward with an unconventional plan: a reverse merger. America West would technically acquire US Airways but keep its better-known name. The deal closed in 2005, creating a new US Airways headquartered in Tempe, Arizona, an East-West hybrid airline combining America West's efficiency with US Airways' legacy hubs in Charlotte, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. The integration was brutal. Crews fought over pay, seniority, and identity. Operations stumbled under cultural clashes. But financially, the airline stabilized. It found footing again, and Parker, now CEO, had bigger ambitions. He wanted to lead the next great consolidation of American aviation. By the late 2000s, U.S. Airways was no longer a flashy carrier, but it was finally a solid one. Parker's focus on discipline and cost control turned profits where competitors still struggled. Charlotte became a mega hub, Philadelphia grew into a transatlantic gateway, and Phoenix held the West. The airline expanded to cities like London, Paris, Rome, and Frankfurt. Its largely Airbus fleet, unusual for a U.S. legacy carrier, gave it efficiency and consistency. For the first time in decades, U.S. Airways wasn't fighting for survival, it was quietly winning. Then on January 15th, 2009, U.S. Airways Flight 1549 took off from New York's LaGuardia Airport. Minutes later, a flock of geese struck both engines, shutting them down. Captain Chesley, Sully Sullenberger, and First Officer Jeffrey Skiles had seconds to make a decision. They landed the plane in the Hudson River. Every single one of the 155 people aboard survived. The miracle on the Hudson became a global symbol of calm under pressure. While the spotlight shone on Sully, the moment reflected the very essence of U.S. Airways: professionalism, resilience, and composure in crisis. It was fittingly the airline's defining moment, when everything went right for a company that had spent its life surviving when everything went wrong. In 2011, fate flipped again. This time, American Airlines was in bankruptcy. Parker saw his chance. He proposed another reverse merger, just like he had done years earlier, but on a historic scale. After long negotiations, the deal was finalized in 2013. Technically, U.S. Airways acquired American Airlines, but the combined carrier would keep the American name. In practice, Parker and his U.S. Airways leadership team took control of what became the largest airline in the world. Between 2013 and 2015, the U.S. Airways brand was gradually phased out. New paint, new uniforms, new website, new everything. The final chapter closed on October 17, 2015, when Flight 1939, a nod to the airline's founding year, departed Philadelphia for San Francisco. With that flight, the U.S. Airways name officially disappeared from the skies. There was no scandal, no collapse, no grand farewell. Just quiet pride from an airline that had fought, merged, and reinvented itself for more than 7 decades. U.S. Airways may have disappeared as a brand, but its DNA still courses through American Airlines. Its Airbus fleet, its East Coast hubs, and many of its employees remain a living part of the industry's largest carrier. Its history mirrors the evolution of American aviation itself. Deregulation, consolidation, labor struggles, efficiency, and the endless fight to adapt. More than any other airline, U.S. Airways embodied one simple truth: survival is success. From humble mail routes over Pennsylvania hills to a miracle on the Hudson River, the journey of U.S. Airways is the story of American aviation, built on persistence, patched together by ambition, and held aloft by pure willpower. It didn't go out in flames or failure. It bowed out on its own terms, quietly, steadily, and proudly, as part of something even larger. Because in the skies, as in life, not every ending is a fall. Sometimes it's just another ascent.